So for those of you that are in the know, so I'm actually trying to something different. So I was so I was trying to repurpose these Mondays because obviously I can't sing 4 hours a day. I can't sing 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, and have my voice and be able to get, hey Eric, good to see you, man, right on, brother. I can't do that. I can't do that and then expect my voice to survive for any other singing other than performing live. So, and right now, since I'm working on a new record, I'm working on 3 new records. I just want to. I need to figure out some way to salvage my voice. Kind of maintain some semblance of decent voice quality throughout the week. So I decided to limit my singing to 4 days, and so I'm doing some storytelling. So I was going to do 15 listens, which was going to be a music reviewing show where I was going to listen to an album 15 times in a given week, and then I was going to talk about each listen and kind of unpack the record from a musical perspective as well as from a very personal perspective. But turns out that I don't have 15 hours or even 7.5 hours if it's a half-hour long record. I don't even have 7.5 hours to commit to listening to an album over the course of the week. My time is just super, super crazy as it is. So, I literally get up in the morning at 7 in the morning and I go from 7 all the way till like 10 or 11 at night, at which point in time I stop and take an hour to do my own thing and then I go to bed. So I decided that what I was going to do is I'm gonna try this. If this goes well, then awesome. If it doesn't, then I'll let it kind of fall to the wayside. But the thing is that I definitely have done this sort of thing in the past for my friends at various points in time. I used to have some friends that would actually, when they would come over and these 2 girlfriends of mine would come over and hang out and before literally before everybody went to bed, I'd be like, all right, well, what kind of story do we want to hear? And we would sort of identify some parameters. And then I would actually get up and running, and I would just improv a silly story. Now, this story is not going to be improv. I'm going to actually take all of the margins of my days during the course of the week and sort of define the architecture of the story. So this story is actually one that I wrote. It's sort of a collaboration between me at about 20 years ago, so me at around 20, 23, 24 years old, and myself now here 20 years later. And so I just want to give it just a second to let because the thing is unfortunately when the story actually gets up and running, I mean obviously I don't mind if people interject like sounds like the soundboard. Well, oh no, the soundboard's not up, but let me turn the soundboard on. So so I don't mind if you guys interject sounds, and I don't mind. And of course, at various points, at every chapter, I can do a real minor recap of kind of what's happened up to this point in time. But the thing is it's not going to allow for the kind of it's not going to allow for I'm not going to be able every person that comes in and goes, what's going on? I'm not going to be able to address every single question the way I normally would if I was playing music. I could just be like, oh, here's in the next song, because this is going to be a pretty involved story. So the last time I told this story to a friend of mine, it took about 2 hours. It took about 2.5 hours to tell the entire story. I might be faster nowadays. I don't know. We'll see. So the thing is that so what I'm thinking is I just want to give it just another maybe until about 6:10 and then I'm going to get up and running yeah. And the thing is and then if this goes well, if you guys dig it and if it's a good time, then this will be my regular Monday thing for the next month. And if it keeps happening, if everybody digs it and it's sort of picking up some steam, then I'll keep it going, and if not, then I'll try something else. But I definitely want to fill my Mondays with something, but I don't know. I did just tweet it. I did just send out a tweet right at the very top of the hour, and I did, man. Yeah, I just sent out a tweet at the top of the hour. So I'm going to give it about 1 more minute and then we'll get up and running. And again, so the thing is that and obviously don't, feel free to interject, feel free to throw in questions. I mean, the thing is I really do kind of treat these kind of the way I would like a bedtime story. The thing is that if you have questions and want me to unpack a particular idea, I can and I will, and it'll just be limited based on like it'll be based on the limits of my imagination. But hey, Justin, so this is a show that I call it's bedtime stories for people who don't sleep. It's I'm just basically telling a story. I mean, like I was working on a screenplay. I was working on a screenplay about 20 years ago, and no, it's not. It's not real life. This is actually a fairy tale that think the Princess Bride kind of like modality of story. So. It's a little bit silly and it's a little bit over the top and it's a little bit it's sort of a confluence of a bunch of different kinds of things. But I think it's fun and we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so why don't we get up and running? So basically, so first off, let me just preface this by saying that this story is not a story that takes place in this universe. Because this is not the kind of universe where, this is not this universe here, at least this planet is not a just planet. This planet's not a good planet. Like the people that have a tendency to win are usually the scoundrels and those that will kind of go any distance. And so the thing is this story definitely has, is sort of like has some justice in this story. Obviously the good people do win in the end and there are lessons to be learned. There's no real gratuitous violence or death. These are all things that in the real world are sort of de rigueur. But if these kind of things do resonate for you, I think it's because I sort of assume that there are a lot of people that were intended for different universes that just for some reason somehow ended up in this one. I kind of consider myself amongst those where I look around and I look at the way people treat each other and I look at the way that the world kind of treats each other. I look at the way countries treat each other and I go, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And then I realize, oh, you know what? It's because I'm in the wrong universe. And so this story is actually about the universe, or one of the universes that I think I would have been a better fit for. But this story begins about 1,000 years ago today, and in a place not unlike this one, but not this one, and it takes place in a small mountain kingdom, and basically this mountain kingdom is known for this mountain kingdom is basically known for. Basically, there's sheep in the highlands and there are pigs in the lowlands, and it's a small country. It's it's a little mountain country where there's more mileage vertically than there is mileage lengthwise. So where there's more vertical land distance wise than there is actually flat land. And this is actually about the royal family. There's a royal family. There's sort of a king. The country's called Euphonia. And I don't have the names for the king and the queen, but so we're going to call them King Euphonia and Queen Euphonia, and they have all boys. They have a whole bunch of boys, and they've got 5 boys, and the eldest is named Eric, and the next youngest is named David, and the next youngest is named Colin, and the next youngest is named Jim, and then the very last, the youngest son, his name is Hefter. And the reason why his name is Hefter, the others have sort of normal names. The reason why because Hefter was Queen Euphonia's was the name of Queen Euphonia's father, and so Hefter had the unfortunate circumstance of being named after his grandfather, which obviously Hefter is a very uncommon name, and so Hefter and Hefter was the youngest, so he was obviously he was the baby of the family. So he was doted on by his mother and he was doted on by his father, and as such he was often harangued and besieged by his older brothers. And hey, yeah, there you go, Eric. And the thing is that and these guys, and so but it was a pretty much it was an idyllic childhood to the most part for the most part. You know, it was and they were. I mean, the thing is like this was not a wealthy nation, right? Like their standing army is I mean they don't really have a standing army. They kind of conscript people based on needs. They've never really had to fight an actual war, not for hundreds and hundreds of years, because their terrain is so. It was so hilly. Like the thing is like there's not a lot grows there other than sheep and pigs, and and it's just tough terrain to take. It's tough terrain to hold. You have to want to live there to actually hold the land. And so they really didn't have to deal with much warring. Now there's an empire nearby that about 200 or 300 years ago began sort of expanding. And about 1,000 years prior, this empire began, and this empire actually was about five. Like the limits of the empire 1,000 years ago were about 500 miles away from where they're at now. But as the centuries have gone by, the empire has slowly but surely grown, and now it kind of abuts right up against this tiny country of Euphonia. But the emperor who is now in his 90s. He's a nonagenarian. The emperor, this most current emperor was never really one for military and was never really one for expansion. And so his younger cousin, a guy by the name of Duke Grievous, later in life began to continue to expand the borders of the empire, but not nearly at the pace that the empire had grown. Otherwise, certainly Euphonia would have been taken over because the empire just grows. So Hefter, this little kid of this 12-year-old, well, so he grows up in this small castle with his 5 older brothers, and his family, and they basically they do all of the if you think of them more like they're like working royalty. Like they actually when the lamb's birth, they go out and they help pull the lambs from the mothers and get them appointed and get them situated, and then when the pigs, and the same thing with the pig season, they do the exact same thing. So they're pretty humble bunch of people, but at the same time, the older brothers, Hefter's older brothers, are have gotten a little bit of errors, over time. And so, but I mean, not terribly. But the thing is that but they know their royalty, and they like the fact that that there's not a lot of horses. Horses don't really do that well in this kind of terrain. And and the older boys actually have horses, and they have armor, and they have swords, and they like to use them. And now Hefter, because he's only 12 years old, has not really done much training at arms. And one day, and so he basically spends his days kind of following the older boys. But since they're on horseback, he's often sort of left in the dust. And one day he's sort of pursuing them, and they're off kind of like gallivanting and having their adventures and kind of doing their playing of sorts. And they're it's very funny. They're all staggered exactly. They're all staggered. And Hefter at this point in time is about 5 years old. So his oldest brother Eric is 12. Eric is 12. Dave is 11. Jim is Eric's 12. Dave is 11. Jim is 10. Colin is 9. And then this is a different thing, Waffle. So Hefter's trying to stay, keep up, but he's a kid, he can't. And he ends up finding himself kind of getting lost, there's because these mountain ranges, there's lots of trees and lots of just foliage and lots of animals and lots of craziness. And he eventually gets lost, and at some point in time he gets hungry. And he finds some sort of very strange looking berries. They look pretty inviting. They're like this purplish red, and they've got these sort of gold leaves. And they look pretty delicious, and he eats a bunch of them, and he collapses. And first his throat seizes, and then he feels real drowsy, and he falls down, and he collapses. And he's found by his brothers. Maybe 10, 20, 30 minutes later, they realize that they haven't seen him in a while, and so they go looking for him. And a few hours later, they actually find the boy. Thank God, they find him and pick him up and ride him back to the castle. And at which point the king brings him to their sort of the physician of the surrounding village, and the physician looks at him, and the boys of course find the berries, and they show him the berries to the healer, and the healer says, these berries, these are Swattenberries, and these Swattenberries, like. They're fatal. There's nothing we can do. And the king goes, "What do you mean? What do you mean? There has to be something we can do. Like there certainly has to be something." And the healer says, "Well, maybe in the empire, like they might have healers that can deal with this. But there's no one in these mountains that can deal with. Hey, human being, thank you for the host, man. Good to see you, amigo." So But the healer says, "There's no one within the confines of within the kingdom of Euphonia that can. The only person that I could think that might be able to do something is the great sorcerer." And of course the king kind of like does a little like some little religious sign of of that, and goes, because he's like, don't even speak, he's like, don't even speak his name, like don't even and the one of the younger brothers, it was Jim, goes, what do you mean? Like what sorcerer? And the king holds his hand up and goes, no, don't even mention it. We're not going to even talk about this fellow. Let's call all of the how much. So he says, "Healer, how much time do we have before he dies?" And the king the healer says, maybe a week. Maybe less. It depends on how much he ate. We don't know how much he ate. I can try getting him to puke. We can try to get him to vomit up what he's eaten. But once even if one berry had touched his lips, it means certain death. So the king says, all right, well then why don't we call all of the healers throughout the land? Why don't we call all the healers throughout the land, and why don't we get them all together, and why don't we pool all of our knowledge and see if we can't figure out a way to heal my son. He's my favorite. Which of course the older brothers hear this, and they're like, of course he is. Yeah, they joke around, but the thing is, it still hurts, to know that you're not your favorite. So 3 or 4 days go by, and it takes that amount of time for everybody for all of the healers in the land to gather. And in that process, Hefter gets worse and worse. Basically his extremities, his fingers start turning green, his toes start turning purple. He starts, like, where the green spreads there, you can sort of see the tracings of along the veins as like whatever it is, the corruption is beginning to spread. And every healer each healer shows up, they're brought to the boy, and they look on him, and each one of them looks at him, and then just gives us like a, and each of them says, yeah, this is a fatal disease. This is a fatal poisoning. There's nothing we can do. No one's ever done anything except, maybe the king goes, I know, but we're not going to involve him. I know that we don't want to bring in, the sorcerer. So, so it goes for the next 4 days. One healer comes in, looks at him, goes, there's nothing we can do. In fact, it's so advanced, it's moving quicker. He's going to be dead in just a couple days. And it keeps getting more and more. It becomes, and so as time goes on, eventually, the king starts questioning. He's like, maybe Maybe we do. He's talking to his wife. He's talking to the queen. He's like, maybe we do. Oh, actually, and the queen from the very outset, she was saying, she's like, no, let's bring in whomever we need to bring in to heal our son. Let's bring in whatever the price, let's pay it. Whatever the cost, let's pay it. If it means half the kingdom. If it means a knighthood, if it means a castle, we'll give it. If it means one of our sons, if it means our eldest son, is hand in marriage, let's do it. Hey, Nick Gurkiller, thank you so much for the follow, dude. So she's like, and of course, as she's saying, so every time she says this, the king is like, no, you know the reputation of this sorcerer. They don't call him the Black Sword. Hey, thank you so much, Stefan. They don't. Hey, Nax attacks. They don't call him the Dark Sorcerer for nothing. Like the thing is that like he's the most feared creature in as far as the eagle flies. As far as the crow flies. He's no one like people don't even venture into his lands. You know that there are manticores and wyverns and hippogriffs and satyrs and like every manner of evil creature like roams his lands at his control, at his behest, threatening to murder and destroy and rape and pillage. Like we signed an accord with him. My grandfather's grandfather signed an accord with him. Centuries ago, that allowed him, that gave him those lands, and as long as we don't cross into those lands, then he won't let loose all of his evil creatures on us. But if we even venture into his lands to talk to him, like he will, once we break that treaty, then who knows what manner of evil he's going to unleash on us. And so that was his thinking on the first day, and that was his thinking on the second day, and that was his thinking on the third day. But now the boy's arms are entirely just green black, and his legs are purple and bloated and looking, and his torso is like, like the tendrils of evil, sort of like you can just see the veins on his body, and it's making its way up his neck. And the healer that the king trusts the most, the one that's from the local village, the healer says it's not going to be much longer now, sire. If your majesty, if you're gonna reach out to the sorcerer, you're going to have to do it now. Otherwise, there's not going to be time to save him. And so of course, the Queen Euphonia, of course, is just beside herself, and she's like, we have to do it. We have to save him. We have to do it. And so the king goes, all right, let's send three of my messengers on my fastest horses, and let's send them in. Let's send them, and you're gonna brave the sorcerer's lands, and he's right here, man. He's sleeping right below me here. You can see him. Right there, you can see there's his. He's right there. So he sends these three riders, and these riders, the first rider, when the first, as he enters the lands of the sorcerer, there's a sign posted, here be manticores. And manticores feast on the flesh of the fearful and the fearful and feast on the flesh of sinners. So each of the writers reads this, and the least brave of the writers, the least brave of the messengers, looks at this message, and he's like, no, I can't do it, guys. I can't do it. You're gonna have to go on. The next writers, like the writers, get a little bit further into the sorcerer's lands, and there's another sign that says, here you're now entering the land of the hippogriffs. These are creatures that hunt from the sky, and will pluck a man, pluck a man from his horse and devour his intestines while he's still living. And yeah, there's a sign that like on the sign it says like the hippogriffs prefer to keep their prey alive for as long as they can while they devour them, because it's nothing is as tasty as the fresh, nothing is as delicious as fresh, the freshest of meats. And so the next rider, the next rider's like, he's like, I could brave the manticores. I can't bear to, I can't keep an eye on the land and the sky. And so he turns around. So he says to the last messenger, he's like, you're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to go on, man. I hope you can do it. And he turns around, and he flees. And the last rider eventually reaches now at midnight, he reaches a place where there's another sign that he can only read by. He's got a torch that he's riding with him, and he runs and he sees another sign, and basically he hops off his horse and he holds the sign over it, and it says, "You're now entering the land of shadows." And here even the shadows, will pull at you, and the more fearful you become, the more tasty you are to them, and so they will continue to just, summon deeper and deeper fears in you, and then when you're at your most afraid, they will strike, and they will devour you over the course of 1,000 years, So of course now this messenger, he does not want to do this. Like the thing is this is this sorcerer's been talked about since, for generations, and these lands have been I actually am, man. I'm doing Stefan. I'm doing a D&D campaign that I'm live streaming. What that was what Waffleophagus was referring to when he was saying, should I take notes? Because he's part of that group, and we do it Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. same time as this show. So this writer, he knows he's entering the land of shadows. This sorcerer who is the most, who's been around for centuries and is one of the most feared creatures, one of the most feared human people, and for millennia and for thousands and thousands of miles. Well, we can talk about that. We can talk about that a little bit later on, Eric. But yeah, because I don't want to like get derailed from the story. But yeah, so if you want to reach out to me a little bit later on or after the show, we can talk about it. But so but the thing is, at the same time, he knows that his prince, that his king, his king has given him this mission, and his prince, whom he loves, everybody loves this, everybody loves little Hefter. So he's like I gotta press on, I gotta do it, and so he basically pulls out another torch and lights it. So he's two-fisting these torches as he's thinking that maybe these torches will keep the shadows at bay, and he spurs his horse onward. And of course, as the night gets darker, it's a very cloudy night. And there was no moon to begin with, and so he's literally just following this path, this road in complete darkness, and there's just shadows abounding everywhere, and he just gets more and more terrified as he gets further in. And at the moment where he's just at the point where he's like, I can't do this, I have to turn around, I have to flee for my life. He sees up like as he rounds the path on this mountain. He actually sees what looks like a tower, not in the maybe 500 or 600 yards ahead. And so he's really like, he's not. He's really conflicted. Do I just turn around and race back, or do I rush ahead? And who knows what the sorcerer's going to do? Who knows if the sorcerer's even going to heed this summons? But he manages to muster the last ounce of courage he has, and he races up to the tower, and he knocks on the door. This tower is, it's not a very significantly sized tower, Maybe it's maybe like about it's maybe about seven stories perhaps. It looks to be just based on like the windows. And it's it's maybe about 40 feet in diameter. So it's not a gigantic tower. And he can't really make out much around the the area around the tower. But he knocks, and nothing happens. And he knocks again, and nothing happens. And when he knocks the third time, he hears like the sound of it sounds like. Kind of coming from somewhere. It's from somewhere in the tower, and he hears this like these bolts unlatching, and there's a big it's a long involved process of bolt unlatched bolts and things of that nature. Sounds like there's whatever is keeping this door sealed is being kept sealed for a purpose. But eventually, the sounds of locks being undone completes, and the door cracks open just a bit, and there's the face of an ancient looking man, and he goes yes, and of course now this messenger is just beside himself in fear, and he's like, I'm looking for are you the sorcerer that lives in this tower? Or are you the sorcerer that controls these lands, to whom these lands belong to? And the old man just like looks like eyes this messenger up and down. It kind of takes in everything and he's just sitting there looking at him for a good 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and he goes, I am, and the messenger goes, please, sir, my liege, my king. His Majesty King Euphonia has requested your presence. His son is ill from eating the swagenberries, and we need your expertise. If everyone says if anybody can save him, you can save him. He's on his last legs. He's just minutes away from dying. Can you please return with me? And the sorcerer looks at him for a moment, and then says, let me get my things, and I'll return with you. So all right, we'll kind of fast forward from there. So maybe about another day and a half later, because the sorcerer doesn't travel too fast, doesn't travel too quickly. He arrives, and the boy is now young Hefter is now at his most dire. Like the thing is that like he's all of the discoloration has continued all the way up into his neck. There's like his face is just a mass of lines of veins as they kind of like his breathing is really shallow. His eyes are just blood red, and the hold on real quick. And the king and his queen are just they're at their wits' end. And it's at that moment it's literally like the boy just seems like he's he can go any second now. It's at that moment that the sorcerer kind of bursts in. And he doesn't, of course, this old man, he doesn't move very fast. And he's got the that you heard was just he's got this staff. And it doesn't look like a sorcerer's staff. It's just a big gnarled stick, And he's dressed in black robes, but they're like utilitarian black robes, like and they're dusty, and they're like he looks like a Franciscan monk that's spent the past half hour rolling around in dust, and he's just kind of like hobbles his way up, and he looks at the king and just nods, and he looks at the queen and he nods, And then he looks down at the boy. And the king goes, "Please, sir, if there's anything you can do for my boy, if there's like, you name it, if you can save him, I will give you whatever it is that you ask. No matter what, no matter the price, I will give it to you. If you want half my kingdom, I will give it to you. But please save my son." And the sorcerer, looks at the boy and he kind of checks him and does things that now in this day and age we would notice, like, he's checking his pulse and he's looking at the responsiveness of his eyes. But for people in that day and age, it was they're like, what is he doing? But the thing is but after he gives us the boy a cursory examination, the sorcerer turns and goes, I can help your son, and I can save his life. Even this far gone, I can save his life. And the king, yes, and the people in the room, they're like, yes, and there's like this joyful kind of exhortation that makes its way out the so as the sorcerer kind of made his way up, there was a bunch of like well-wishers and noblemen and castle staff, all of whom were like lingering around, like waiting for the young prince to die. And so the word gets out, and so there's a cheer that kind of goes up all throughout the castle as word gets known that the sorcerer can save him. And the sorcerer goes, no. My price is going to be very heavy. And the king goes, name it, whatever it might be, you name it. And he goes, all right. And so the king goes, well, the sorcerer goes, when your boy, I will save your boy's life. And he's what age is he now? He's 4. Oh, he's 4. So I will save his life, and I'll give you almost a full decade with him. So when he is when I will save his life, and he will be right as rain. But when he reaches his 12th year, you will pack him up, and you will bring him, and you will send him to me, and he will be my apprentice. For I'm finally getting on in years, and I think that it might be time for me to go on to my next adventure, and I can't do so without passing along all of my knowledge. And the king looks at him and like is like, what do you mean? You mean you send my boy to apprentice under you? The dark sorcerer, the sorcerer that is known to consort with demons and manticores and giants and all manner of evil and malevolent creatures. And the sorcerer says, that's my price. That's my price. I will save your son. But I will only do so if you send him to me on his 12th year to be my apprentice. And of course the king and the queen are both like, heartbroken, because for Christ's sakes, this is their son. And not only is it their son, but they're like the things that they've heard that this sorcerer has done, all of the evils that has been attributed to this sorcerer over the centuries, do they want to take their innocent, beautiful son and subject him to all of that? So, so they're deliberating. The queen and the queen and the king, they're deliberating, and their son Hafter throws out just a little what sounds to the layman like a death rattle, and they panic, and everybody panics, and the sorcerer goes, no, the boy is fine. I can still save the boy, but you must give me your answer. So ultimately the queen and the king decide, all right, we'll give him, thinking that what they'll do when the boy's finally 12 is they'll attempt to renegotiate. That gives them 8 years to figure out what the sorcerer might want and might need. So the sorcerer says, okay, then give me the room and leave me with the boy. And I will heal him, and I have your sworn promise that on his 12th birthday you will send him to me, You can send him with a retinue. You can send him by himself. You can send, like however you want. But the thing is that the boy must be sent to me on his 12th birthday. So the king, yes, great, let's do it. So eventually the sorcerer, they hear so they all go outside and everybody's listening closely at the door, and they hear strange chantings and they hear strange sounds and they hear what sounds to be like singing and the wailing of weird things and just strangeness, and eventually the sorcerer like comes back out and says the boy will be fine. Give him a couple days to recover, but he's going to be fine in short order. And so and the thing is, and then the sorcerer says, and again, remember, like I need you to remember, to promise me that when you're on his 12th birthday that you send him to me. And the king, of course, swears. Hey, good to see you. Hey, good to see you guys. Thanks. Hey, Boxhead, thanks so much for the host, man. Hey, dude. So I'm telling a story right now. Dude. So and so you're kind of showing up. You're showing up a little bit late and a little bit. But long story short, there was a young prince. The prince was ate some berries, almost died. No healer in the realm could save him. The king sent off for a sorcerer, like a very feared and malevolent sorcerer. The sorcerer said, "I can promise, I can heal your son." But you have to send your son to me when he's 12 years old. He's going to be my new apprentice. The king and queen didn't want to, but they didn't want to lose their son. They said, "Yeah, we'll do it." So sorry. You have a pizza-eyed emotes. That's awesome, man. That's fucking awesome. That's amazing. Right on. So that's where the story. That's where we're at with the story. So the boy grows to be. Boy ends up growing up to be 12 years old. Like he lives. He returns to his normal idyllic life where he's hanging out with his brothers and basically everybody sort of forgets. Everybody sort of forgets. That this promise was made. I mean, they know it's in the back of their minds. They know it, but the thing is, like, but the sorcerer leaves, and kind of life returns to normal. And it isn't until about a week before the boy's birthday that they receive a message. They receive that they receive a message from some sort of like homeless seeming fellow, and this homeless seeming fellow has demanded an audience with the king, saying he's come as an emissary of the sorcerer, and of course the king is thinking, well, fuck that guy, like we're not gonna, we won't let this guy, this messenger person, in, he seems like he's just a some homeless crazy person, maybe trying to take advantage of the fact that everybody knows that on the prince's 12th name birthday, he's supposed to be sent to the sorcerer. And so the next morning when they turn him away, when they turn turn this messenger away, the sun doesn't come up. The sun doesn't come up. The sun doesn't come up at 8 o'clock in the morning, or it doesn't come up at 6 in the morning. It doesn't come up at 7 in the morning. It doesn't come up at 8 in the morning. And so by around 8:30, everybody starts getting pretty panicky, yeah. Unfortunately, Box said that's not doable, man. This is a pretty fucking epic story. There's a lot of story. Like we are literally at the very beginning of the story, and it's been going on for about 48 minutes. So, so at some point in time, someone postulates that maybe is it possible that because you denied access to deny this messenger access to us. That's why the son is not returning. Like we need the son. We need the son. So can you so the king ultimately decides, all right, send for this messenger. And the messenger is they eventually find him in some tavern or brothel or somewhere of some den of ill repute. And they have him brought before the king, and the king says, the king says, what message, and the messenger says, I'm just here to remind you that now in 5 days you must have your son sent to us. You have your son sent to the sorcerer in whatever form. You can send him with a company of people. You can send him by himself. But regardless, he has to be here on his 12th birthday. So so the king says, yes, I'm aware of that, and the fellow, the homeless fellow says, the homeless looking messenger says, and do you plan on doing so? Do you plan on holding to your promise? And the king says, well, we have things that we think perhaps the sorcerer might prefer instead of my boy. I've sent my sons out, and I've sent my best men out into the world, and we have gathered all sorts of interesting and unusual items of great magic and great power that we thought perhaps we'd be willing to trade. And so the messenger says, but that wasn't the deal. That wasn't what you agreed to. That's not what you agreed with to the sorcerer with. We can't. That's a no-go. The sorcerer wants your son as an apprentice, and that's all he wants. And the king goes, well, can you go? But can you return to the sorcerer and let him know that we have other things that we're willing to offer in trade.
Hey man, is that freedom rock?
Hey Dawson, what's going on, man?
Turn it up, man.
Good to see you, amigo. So the king says, well, the sorcerer should at least know what other things we have to offer, and the homeless man says, all right, well, that's, I'll let him know. I'll let him know, but if you don't have him there on that date, I promise you terrible things are going to happen. You don't want to double cross the sorcerer. So, hey, wife bot, good to see you. The birthday of the boy comes, and the king in his stubbornness decides he's not gonna send the boy. He's not gonna send him. He's gonna instead just see exactly what might happen. And the boy the boy so the boy at about the morning after his 12th birthday, when the king decides not to send him, the boy wakes up and goes to his father and goes, Father, look. And the same green that had appeared on his hands when he was poisoned by those berries has begun to appear on his fingertips. And the king goes, let me see your toes. And 32 times if yes, 12 if no. All right, yeah. Oh wow! Well, hey, wife pot, that's awesome. Congratulations. I've quit smoking a handful of times in my life. It's a tough road to hoe, but it does get better. It really does. Hey, semaphores, right on, man. I'm telling the story right now. So we're right at the point where the king was supposed to send his 12. The king's a young prince, the youngest of 5 boys. The youngest of 5 was poisoned by eating some berries. No healer in the realm could save him. the king sent for like this evil sorcerer, this malevolent sorcerer that said, I can save your son, but the only way I'm going to save your son is if you send him to me on his 12th birthday. He's going to be my apprentice. And the king, of course, doesn't want to do this. The queen doesn't want to do this. And so they say yes. The boy's healed, but then they spend their intervening years trying to figure out ways in which to finagle some sort of like possible trade so that they don't have to send their son to the sorcerer. So this is the day after the 12th birthday, and so king, prince, and his sorcerer walking about. So the king. So the very next day, the boy starts showing signs of the very same poison that he was poisoned with years earlier, and the king of course begins to panic, and the queen as well, and she says, and she's like, and so she's like, we have to send him, we can't lose him, we can't, like 12 years on, we can't, like 8 years later, we can't lose our boy, we have to send him. So the king says, all right, let's put together a retinue of people. We'll give him some retainers, and we'll give him a bunch of nice, stuff, and we'll send with him, a person to train him at arms, and we'll make sure that our boy is raised. Alas, that will happen if this goes well, Dawsony. If this goes well, and I think I'm gonna do this kind of thing every Monday, tell different kinds of stories, and eventually I'll involve you guys. So eventually I'll be like, all right, what do we want the story to be about? And there'll be rules that allow people to hijack the story at various points in time. But right now I'm just telling a story. I'm just going to tell a story and see how it goes. So the king puts together this retinue. They put together this group of people. So he's got somebody that's going to teach him all the coats of like the knightly skills. Like sword fighting and horsemanship and all that. He's got people that are gonna like. He's got like 20 or 30 people. He's got this whole wagon train of people that are going along with him. And so the king and all the brothers, all say goodbye, and they're like, oh, we love you, buddy. And, don't worry, the king, we got some good people that we're sending with you, and you shouldn't worry, we'll see you in a few years, like how long can an apprenticeship last, So this whole wagon train sets out. And they get to the first, and of course they eventually get to the sorcerer's lands, and they run across that first sign. And the first sign says, if any travelers who pass beyond these lands are now entering the black sorcerer's domain, and the first things that you will encounter here are my manticores, and my manticores will poison you and devour you. Will poison you with excruciating poisons, and then they'll devour you. Starting from your feet. And so of course, so they run across this, and they go maybe a quarter of a mile into these terrains, and a huge swath of this terrain go, no, you know what, we can't do this. We can't do it. Like, it's just too dangerous. We don't want to lose our lives. Why are all of us losing our lives? The boy, the prince, will be allowed to pass unhindered because he's the sorcerer's new apprentice, but everybody else, the rest of us, are going to die. Why are we even here? And so a big swath of the party peel away. And then they get to the next, but a bunch of them hold true, and a bunch of them hold faith with their young prince, and they continue on. And then they eventually reach the next sign, and the next sign says, here are like before, it says, here are the hippogriffs, and these hippogriffs, they will pluck you from they'll pluck you from your saddle, and they like to keep their prey alive while they eat them, because the freshest meat is the best meat, And at this point in time, the same thing that happened with the messengers, the people are going like, wait, we can't watch the road and the forests and the sky. Like there's just too much. Like we're gonna get a cat. We're gonna get to eaten. And anyway, and a bunch of them are like, hippogriffs and manticores. I'm out. Even so, the bravest of them, including the man who's going to be the one that teaches the young boy, the young prince, sword fighting and all art, all of the like the manly chivalric arts, sticks with him, and they continue along until they reach the land of shadows, until they reach the sign that says, "Here, beyond this area, beyond this area, the shadows will devour you, and the shadows will play on your fears until you're at your most fearful. And it's at that point, when you're at your most fearful, that you're at your most delicious to these shadows. And it's at that point that they will devour you, and they will devour you over the course of 1,000 years, sucking every, Anyway, so just horror upon horror, this litany of horrors on this big plaque. So and so at this point in time, most of the others go, we can't, we've come this far, but we can't, this is I'm not going to be devoured for 1,000 years. I'm not going to have my soul devoured for 1,000 years. No. But some of the strongest, including the man at arms, that's going to be, the man at arms that they're supposed to be training this kid. Decide, all right, well, we'll stick with you. So what started off as 30 or 40 is now 2. It's the man at arms and basically the scholar that was sent along to kind of teach the scholar who has been saying this entire time, well, manticores, if they ever existed, they existed a long time ago, and hippogriffs, if they ever existed, they existed a long time ago, and and shadows are just they're not things, they're just light, the shadows can't hurt you. But again, they ran across this part of the terrain in the middle of the night. And the first thing, and so as they start progressing along, the first thing that the scholar says is, he's like, why we should be hearing the sounds of at least birds and other things, there's, does anybody hear any, when was the last time we heard a bird? Have we heard anything And they listen, and everybody listens. They stop their horses and they just listen, and it's just completely silent. They're still in the mountains, they're still, and it's just silence. And the scholar says, that's very curious. I don't know what usually when things go silent, it's because there's a predator around. He's like, but he's like, but you, and he turns to the man at arms. He's like, but any mountain mountain predators, bears and wolves and things of that nature, they're nothing that you'd be afraid of, are they? And of course the man at arms, who has been exceptionally uneasy this entire trip, says, well, a bear, perhaps, sure, certainly, and perhaps I could deal with a bear if just go back and collect my halberd and perhaps certainly maybe 2 or 3 wolves I could probably, but a full pack of wolves, we might be best served if we just were to flee, and they continue a little bit further along, and all of them have torches out, and so of course the torches are creating more and more shadow and interplay of shadow as they get along, and the scholar starts kind of talking about the fact that really shadows are just light. They're not they're caused by light. It's light hits something solid and the light does not pass, and that's what creates a shadow. Shadows are not things that can do us any harm. They're the more he talks, the more it sounds like he's trying to convince himself. And at some point in time, there's a breeze that comes from nowhere, and it blows out both torches. Both the men were holding the torches. Now the entire time, this the young prince is sort of beside himself in fear. But he's got a man that he knows is a good fighting man, and he's got the smartest man he's ever met. He's got both of them with him, and they're both telling him things are fine. So even though he's sort of beside himself in terror, he's still happy that he's with these decent people. So when the scholar decides that perhaps it's best that they set up camp and maybe they create a bonfire, the man at arms says, sure, that sounds like a great idea. And so they go and they start foraging for things to make a bonfire, to make a fire. Like they get their torches relit, and every single time they try to light a fire, the wind blows it out. So and the more time that they sit, and the scholar begins to think that that's more and more uncanny. Like it's impossible. How could it be that the winds just blow at the exact moment that I'm trying to light this fire? And they create a windbreak, and the wind comes from a different direction. And they do everything that they try to light a fire. The wind confounds it. And at some point in time, the scholar just loses his nerve and says, "I can't do this. I can't continue on. There's something unevil. There's something unnatural and something evil here. And I think it's magic. And so he turns off and flees. And now the man-at-arms, who was already at pretty severe levels of heightened distress, just looks at the young prince and says, Your Highness, you have to go on. You have to go on. You will not be harmed. You're the sorcerer. The sorcerer controls these lands. You're not going to get harmed. But if I continue, I just feel it in my bones. I feel it in my bones that I'm gonna die if I continue with you. So I'm gonna turn around, and you continue this. You follow this path. The messenger said that if you just follow this path, you'll eventually find the sorcerer's tower. So and then the man-at-arms turns around. So now the young prince is just left by himself. Young Hefter is left by himself. And he sits there and he cries for a little while, and he's scared out of his mind. He doesn't know what to do. But the thing is that like he knows that he's going to die if he goes back, and he's going to and so he decides he's just going to continue on. And he eventually makes his way to the tower, and it's now 3 or 4 in the morning, and it's pitch black, and there's a moonless night, and he makes his way up to the tower door, and he knocks on the door, and just like last time, he knocks 3 times. First time he knocks, there's nothing, just silence. Next time he knocks, nothing, silence. The third time he knocks, he hears, and the door, there's the unlatching of all the locks, and which takes a good 10 minutes, and then the door creaks open, and there's the face of the elderly man, and he looks and he goes, the prince has arrived. Well, boy, I thought I wasn't certain you were. I thought perhaps you'd be. I thought perhaps you were gonna meet your doom on the road. It's good that you came to me. And come in. Let's get you the antidote you need for that poison. So, and so in walks the young Hefter and. Hey, good to see you, Eric. Good to see you, Lena. And so he walks, and he enters into this into this tower that smells of dust and ancient parchment and old man, and lentils and cabbage and just everything, all like a melange of just strange and odd and sort of like slightly disgusting smells, But one of the strange things, one of the things he first remarks upon entering this tower, is it doesn't feel or look particularly arcane. It literally looks like a place that like some old person that's sort of collected a bunch of gewgaws and doodads and things throughout the course of their life would have. Like it's just like there's lots of shelves and there's lots of tables and there's lots of and every surface is just covered in stuff. And all of that stuff is covered in dust and all that and cobwebs and it just looks like a complete ramshackle hoarder mess of all, like the most hoardery of all hoarder messes, And so in the young prince follows the sorcerer, and the sorcerer goes over to an area surrounding a large fire pit, and this area is just covered in flasks and vases and and decanters and just every manner of shape and size of little boiling pots and and it's just got stuff and it smells of formaldehyde and it smells of ammonia and it smells of lavender and it smells of spices and like just the weirdest, most crazy combination of scents, And he goes around, he searches around, and he actually pulls up he finds this flask and he pulls it up and he goes, "Here, drink this." So of course the prince drinks it and is still kind of frightened out of his mind, because he just doesn't know what to expect and the sorcerer looks at him and goes don't worry, son. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. It's gonna be all right. We should get you situated. We should get you situated in your room. And he goes, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of space for you. I'm putting you up in a tower in a sub tower connected to the library. And he grabs like a little table off. A little torch off one of the sconces. And kind of like walks him down, like kind of slowly in a slow gait with his little staff, and goes and he goes to these big doors and he opens them up, and there's this maybe like a 15 by 15 square foot like area that looks like a library, it looks like it would be a library, but there's no books on any of the shelves. It's just shelves going out 20 feet. And it's just this cylindrical room, this like cylinder room where it's just got just empty shelves. And he's like, this is the library, and follow me. And he comes in and he goes to this. There's this door, and he unlocks it and he opens it, and inside there's a little bedroll, that it's maybe about 4.5 feet. This bedroll, so it's maybe just large enough for the boy at his current size at 12 years old to lay flat on. And there's a bedroll, and then everything else in this room is just books stacked up. It's just literally stacks and stacks of books. You can't see how high the room is because it's just books straight up. There's just books. You can't actually tell, because you can't stack books. Oh no, there's like a little wood lintel. There's a little wooden lintel, and that that obscures like how many books, but it's just covered in books. And the sorcerer turns to the boy, and he's like this is your my Adidas. There actually are morals. It's kind of like a novel in storytelling form. So there's a lot to this story. But so he goes to the boy, and there's like a little table. There's a little table that stands maybe this high with a little like lantern on it, and the lantern has a little candle inside, and the candle's burning. So he goes, and so he says, here's your room. And the boy looks and is like, this is my room, and the sorcerer says, yes, this is this is your room as it currently stands. So I'm gonna need you to remove these books and put them on the shelves for me over some time. And the boy says, well, can I just pull some out right now? I can put some on there and create a little bit more room because I've got at least the stuff that I've got on my horse, right? And the sorcerer goes, no, you don't just pull books out if you're willy-nilly. You have to read these books. You have to. The only book that comes out of here is a book that you've completed reading, and then and when you finish reading the book, then you can put it back up on the shelves. Yeah. He actually took he was driving a Honda Prius just because it gets really good gas mileage. So the thing is, so the prince is like, wait, what? He's like, I have to read all of these books? How many? He's like, there's got to be 100 books here, and the sorcerer just kind of pats him on the shoulder and goes, no. He's like, one thing we're gonna have to teach you. We're gonna have to teach you like advanced, like how to do calculations. He's like this. Well, you'll learn in time. So no, yeah, he did not take a Honda Prius. He took a horse. So so that begins. So this begins, and we're gonna do a little like this is the montage section of this movie. So very quickly the prince falls into this, into his studies, So he basically helps around the house. So it turns out that the tower has like gardens, and the sorcerer tends to these gardens, and that's where they get they get all their vegetables. They also have chickens. That's where they get their eggs. So they have to tend to the chicken hutches. They've got he's got some pigs, he's got some sheep, he's got like all of these things. But the good thing is that because the prince grew up in a small kingdom, and it was a small working kingdom, like these are things that he's not unfamiliar with, and so he's pretty handy. And so he learns a lot more about the actual. He learns things from a science perspective. He learns what it is that's going on with the with the sheep while they're pregnant. Why they can eat certain things and why they can't eat certain things. The way their stomachs work and how their stomachs work. So the thing is, so all of these various things like he learns over this time, but. And each of the books that he reads has a whole new set of interesting tidbits involved. So it's like some of it's on navigating by the stars, and one of it's all about the taxonomy of animals, and others is all about plants and like local plants, and then plants from abroad, and agriculture and the best ways in which to grow. And some of them are about warfare, and some of them are about weapons, like the best way to make a bow, and not only how to make a bow, but how to make a bow that uses pulleys, and how that bow with pulleys can double and triple and quadruple the strength of the arm that pulls it. But one of the things, so the first year goes by, and he's learning all of these things, and he's effectively, he thinks of himself a little bit like a slave. Like the sorcerer is not unkindly, but the sorcerer doesn't really spends most of his day away from the boy. He basically, you are, yeah, Death Slayer, yeah. This is a long one, man. So the prince is, the prince basically, the prince basically, is learning things, and he's learning from the books more so than he is from the sorcerer. He's learning, but he hasn't. But so the thing is that he hasn't seen one whit of magic. He hasn't seen. There's been no magic at all, and he hasn't really seen the sorcerer do any magic. And so eventually, so after the first year, the boy actually has like a little like maybe 4x4 space. And so he's brought in from somewhere a little like hutch to keep stuff in, and he's brought in a little desk, and so he can study in his little room. It's still covered with with books, but he's got a little bit more space, and he's trying, hey, random girl singing, thank you so much for the host, that's very kind of you, that's awesome. But he's not seeing any magic, like this dark sorcerer, like he was expecting to have like demons popping by left and right, and and having like blood sacrifices, but so far in the first year of his life and living in this tower under the care of this evil sorcerer, it's been totally domestic domain, like domestic stuff. And it's been lots of like reading books, and occasionally the sorcerer would come up to him and talk to him about the book that he's currently reading, and would ask him about like certain things, and would grill him on it, and would occasionally take him out, and But the thing is, but for the most part, so he maybe would do 1 or 2 hours a day of like some sort of like interaction with the sorcerer, but otherwise he was left to his own devices, and often left to either deal with the sheep, or deal with the pigs, or deal with his books, or deal with his studies, or deal with the yard work. So And so the second year goes by, and it's the same thing, but now he's gone from a little 4-foot space in this like sub tower to now maybe about an 8-foot space, and he's got more room, and there's more books that are gone. He's gone through now hundreds of books, and now the sorcerer is taking a little bit more active role in his instruction. So now what started with just a couple hours of discussion is now 3 or 4 hours. Hey. Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, awesome. No, yeah. Don't even sweat it, Mary. Good to see you, though. I'm glad you're here. So he's now in this room that was filled with books. There's now like a little like 8x8 square. Well, no, it's not even an 8x8. It's like it goes in. It goes out about 4 feet and it goes back about 8 feet. So it's like but it goes up. But it goes up. It goes up. It actually turns out that the roof to this room that he's in is actually about 15, 16 feet tall. So it's like a cathedral ceiling, and it literally was packed all the way to the top with books. And so slowly but surely, the prince has been pulling these books off and reading each book he reads goes out on the shelf in the library. And he's got like a little space, and so he's got even more stuff in there, and it's starting to feel like home, and it's funny because now he's looking at different sections, because it turns out all the books were organized on the shelves, and when they were put in this room, they were put according to how they were organized. So over here are the books on animals, and over here are the books on geography, and over here are the books on the physical sciences, and over here are books on mathematics, and so what he's been doing is he's been thinking like, well, what do I want to add I want a little closet, so why don't I'll go clear out all the books on mathematics, and that will give me some space on this side of the room so the way he's been tackling his education has been kind of based on what kind of room he needs in his in his little living space. And the third year goes by, and again there's no talk about magic. And at some point in time, but the sorcerer is now taking a much more active role in the young prince's education. And so now the boy's about 15 years old, and at some point in time, they're after they've had this discussion about stars and what they are, and they're not the torches of the dead, that they're not all of the different things, but there's a good chance that what they actually are balls of fire, of elements burning in space, and that they're so gigantic that they could engulf the entire world. And of course the boy doesn't understand how the sorcerer can think this, and why does he? Is there any way I can convince you to tickle the ivories while yeah. So yeah, alas, yeah, I can't. This is not. This is a controller. This is a controller keyboard. So it can't play and stream OBS. I have to it has to be connected to Pro Tools in order for it to fully work. Sorry about that, man. So So at some point in time, the boy goes, look, sorcerer, I really do. I appreciate all the fact that you've taken me in. I appreciate the fact that you've kind of set me on this path of learning, and I really do like all of the stuff that I like the fact that this, like when I have questions, you have answers, and that's always awesome. But the thing is I thought you were. My father led me to believe that you were an evil man, that you were an evil sorcerer, that you consorted with demons, that you could speak to the dead, and you did foul things to you would do blood sacrifices at midnight, like all of these things. These were all the things that I was told that you kind of. Where is all that? At what point in time do I get turned on to that? At what point in time do you start teaching me magic? And the sorcerer looks at him and goes, "So you want to learn magic, do you?" and the boy's like, yeah, I mean, isn't that why I'm here? Aren't I here to like, be your apprentice and learn the magic that you said, that you wasn't that what I'm supposed to be? Am I here to learn all the secrets that you know so that it carries on? And the sorcerer goes, you are learning all my secrets. I mean, this is all of this information, all of these books, all of them carry things that are necessary to the, they're the accumulated knowledge of thousands of years of study and learning, and the boy goes, yes, I know, but anybody can learn this. Anybody that can read can learn this stuff. I thought I thought I was gonna learn the magic stuff, the arcane arts, all of the things that the things that mortal men should not be ken of, like that stuff. And the sorcerer looks and goes, so you want to learn magic? Well, I do know magic, and I can teach you magic. It's a long road, and it's a difficult road. And magic is not what it used to be. Back in the day, men that knew magic and women that knew magic, they could hurl bolts of lightning from the sky. They could pluck lightning from the sky and use it as a weapon. And they could get the seas to boil. And they could see through the eyes of hawks thousands of miles away. And they could, they could summon. They were the ones that could summon the dead or return the dead to the living. All of these things used to be possible back in the day, but magic is not what it used to be. The thing is that magic requires a little bit of belief, and as people move further and further away from the world of magic, as we move deeper into the world of sciences, and as we move deeper into the world of small and broken petty minds, the magic gets less and less each year. I have not for a long time, Zerk, not for a long time, but I read whatever the wheel stuff, I think, a long time ago, yeah, long time ago, Sorry. So he. Give me 1 second. So he goes. So he goes. So obviously. So that elemental magic. That real visceral, like being able to summon lightning or summon a ball of flame and throw it at your enemies or conjure up or get the earth to shatter and shake and split. That kind of magic, it's that can't be done anymore. It's there's no longer that level of magic. He's like, but when he does this, when the sorcerer does this and he does that, a little flame just appears, like a little light, like a Bic lighter flame. He goes, but and it's just sitting there, just a little flame crackling on the tip of his finger. And the boy like looks at it. The prince looks at this little flame, and he's like, oh, is that that's kind of one of the that's sort of one of the kinds of powers you can do. And the sorcerer looks at it and goes, no. He's like, this is it. This is what it is. This is what's left. This is what's left of that magic. All of the fire and the lightning and the earth shaking and shattering. That's it. That's all that's left. And it's just the little Bic flame, And he's like, I mean, it can get bigger, and he does this, and it gets a little, but it's still it's gone from a Bic lighter to like a candle flame, and he's like, there's this, that's that, there's this, and there's this, and you can switch over here, you can do this, he's like that, you can pass it back and forth, and he does some silly kind of slide, but it's effectively just a little tiny fire. And the prince looks at him and he's like, that's the magic. That's the magic. That's the best you could. Like, they used to be able to throw lightning bolts. And now you can make a little flame appear on the tip of your finger. You can't. Can you? I mean, what do you just slowly but surely scald someone with it? Like, how does that? How do you How does that do anybody any good? And the sorcerer says, what do you mean? What do you mean? How does this do anybody any good? This is fire. This is man's first technology. This is the first thing that we like. You can eat with this. You can warm yourself with this. You can you can get wet in a river and climb out and then warm yourself with this. Like this is like, it's just little, he's like, and he keeps doing this and it flicks off and it flicks back on. This is amazing. This is one of the greatest technologies, one of the greatest magics in existence. If you can't do anything with this, then you have no business learning the rest of the magic. If you learn this first, learn how to control this, learn the uses of this, and then I'll teach you more magic. So the boy, 15 years old, from 15 to 16, he spends that year, while amongst all his other studies, amongst all of his other lessons and all of his other stuff, he eventually learns how to. And I can't really. The thing is that like, it's funny because I actually do know these. I mean, I do know that how that's done, but I can't tell you. It would require revealing secrets that are just not allowed for me to share. But the thing is and it takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of study. But eventually he did. He did gain the ability to like create his own without any help, to just summon a flame on his fingertips, on a fingertip, to move it between his fingers. Although not multiple fingers, you can only do one finger at a time. But or you could hold one, always only one flame. And so he masters that, and eventually comes back to the sorcerer and he says, okay, so I mastered the fire. I mastered how to create flame. What's next? And the sorcerer says, well, you know how I told you that it used to be that you could see through the eyes of hawks, half a continent away, or you could, it used to be that you could transport yourself, or just your image, just your essential self, to someone else. You could speak to them across leagues just by appearing as a blue nimbus. It would be your form, and you could appear to them, and you could talk to them and have a conversation with them. It used to be that you could. It used to be that you could do all manner of sort of like a person could fly under their own under the veil of magic. Someone could teleport themselves from one place to another place. All of these things used to be possible, but again, the magic is not what it used to be, and basically all that's left of that kind of magic is this. And he does is this. And the prince looks at him and goes, "What's this?" And then from behind him, the prince hears the sorcerer's voice go, "This is what I'm talking about." And he turns and he looks and he's like, "What?" And then from over here, and he sees and the sorcerer does this. And he says, "No, I mean from over here. See, like I can talk to you from different places. See, my voice is coming from over here, or over here, and then or over here, and the sorcerer just keeps doing this, and then talking, but his voice ends up appearing from wherever he's kind of throwing it, and so again the prince goes, wait, what? Like this is, so it used to be that someone could teleport, they could take their body and transport it across time and space to another place. And they used to be able to send their spirit anywhere and have conversations, or they used to be able to send their mind into a hawk half a continent away. And all of that has devolved into just being able to throw your voice. Like literally you're throwing your voice. That's the magic. That's all the magic that I get. Like that's what that really. And the sorcerer goes, "All right, if you don't want me to teach you, I won't teach you. Like this is the magic left in the world, son. You either want it or you don't. Yes, like that thing is like obviously you're not ready for this. You're not ready for this if you can't see decent and practical applications for being able to throw your voice. like, you're kidding me. So the prince goes, I mean, yeah, I mean, I get, all right, I can see, I could, yeah, I mean, it must be useful. I mean, if only to just distract people or confuse them, or I don't know, but, or like if you've got a puppet, you know, that you'll be great with a puppet. And you know, and the sorcerer goes, great, yeah, joke all you want, but you know, if you want to learn this, then let's get studying. So a year goes by, and the young prince learns how to throw his voice, and he gets pretty good at it. So he's able to throw his voice half a mile. You know, he's able to throw his voice wherever he can point to and wherever he can look at. You know, he can send it like with pretty damn awesome accuracy. He can send it like long distances. You know, unfortunately, he's not there to hear it. So you know, so whether it's working or not, he doesn't know. Like he's got, you know, like when he screams at the top of his lungs and throws it, he can hear himself screaming, you know, from 100 yards away. You know, but as far as he knows, he thinks he can. You know, he thinks he can throw his voice pretty far. And then the sorcerer says, all right, well, so then the young prince comes to the sorcerer and goes, all right, so I've learned how to this. There's a little thing of flame, and I've learned how to do this. I've learned how to do this, and then from wherever he threw his voice, he's like, what's next? And the sorcerer goes, the next thing is the most powerful of all the magics. There was a point in time when magic was so potent that you could make someone who hated you, who despised you, you could make them fall in love with you. You could take control of the mind of a king. You could send the most brave and stalwart of opponent fleeing for the hills. You could put so much fear in him that he would never ever uncurl. He would collapse into a ball in sheer terror and remain that way to the end of his days. And this power is the most powerful because it is pitting one mind up against another, one soul, one person, you know. With this magic at the height of its powers, you could put yourself inside the body of someone else, speak with their voice, manipulate them in ways where they thought that your thoughts were their thoughts. And by this point in time, the young prince is like, but let me guess, it can't do that anymore. It can't do that. You can make somebody say something they don't want to say. You can make them say things that they do want to say, but they're not saying. Is that what it is? Is that what it is? Is that like and the young prince is like, is that the power that you're going to teach? So he's like, sorry about it. So he's like, so that's Yatsu, and he sneezes. He's like, so that's dust. So that's the Achoo! Achoo! And the sorcerer just breaks out into a really big grin, just sits there and just looks and is just looking at the prince, and he's just smiling like he's just doing the most amazing, like, isn't this the absolute greatest, you know? And the prince like sneezes for a second and is about to and then he's like, and then he stops for a second. He stops for a second and it's like, Achoo! Are you telling me that the sneeze is the Achoo! This is what that power, the power to control men's minds, the power to make people fall in love, to throw fear in the hearts of the bravest warriors. You're saying that I can learn how to make somebody sneeze? And the sorcerer's like, it's pretty awesome, you must admit. I mean, you know, try not to sneeze. Try not sneezing. Just look at a light. Look at a light. Look right straight at a light and try not to sneeze. And so the prince is like, ugh. And he does it, and he sneezes 5 times in quick succession. And he's like, and the sorcerer says, you don't suffer from allergies, do you? Because if you suffered from allergies, you'd know. You make somebody sneeze 20 times, they're 20 times in a row, they're pretty much wiped out. Like you can sap the strength and energy from anybody with a sneeze. If they just do it enough. And the young prince is like, this is this is the next spell that you. This is the next thing. This is the fire. And he makes a little flame. The fire, and then from behind him, the voice, and now a sneeze. Like what's next? What's the next magic spell I'm gonna learn? How to make somebody poop on command? Like how to turn wet clothes into dry clothes? Really, these are terrible spells. And the sorcerer looks at him and goes, no. This son, boy, this is it. This is the sum total of magic. These 3 spells. This is all that magic has been reduced to. This, the flame, the voice, and chew, the sneeze. That's all the magic left in the world. All right, frying fish. Sorry, brother. So he's like that's all the magic. That's all the magic that's all the magic left in the world. And so the young prince is like, why was I summoned? Why did you summon me to learn these? I mean, these are parlor tricks. They don't do anything for anybody. He's like, and you convinced my father that you were consorting with demons and that there were manticores and hippogriffs and this is bullshit. This is total bullshit. And the sorcerer says, no, that's not bullshit. That's belief. How dare you? How dare you? The reason why I have these lands, the reason why I have the power that I do, the influence that I do, it's entirely because I've spent years and years and years manipulating. And the prince goes, wait, no. When I was young, when I was 12 years old, you sent a messenger over, and you made the sun did not show up for 3 or 4 hours. And the sorcerer says, that was a solar eclipse. You know a solar eclipse, right? Yeah. Well, that was just a well-timed solar eclipse. If your father didn't send you, I just was going to send him some stern words and say that I was going to send him a letter telling him that any bad things that befell him was my doing. Like what? I can't do anything. Obviously these are the powers. And the voice and the sneeze. That's it. That's all the magic there is in the world. And so the young prince is like, he's like, you're a charlatan. And the sorcerer goes, no, I'm not a charlatan. I'm a storyteller. I'm helping preserve. I'm preserving the idea of magic and keeping all of the things that are important in life, the things like the mysteries and not knowing how things are going to end, and the thoughts that these are the things. If you don't know how to weave a good tale, if you don't know how to take a situation and turn it to your advantage right there in that moment, then you're not going to have the skills to do anything in life. You need to be able to look at a situation, read it, and then use the skills that you've got and adapt it to suit your needs. And the young prince is like, that is the biggest amount of horseshit I've ever heard in my entire life. He's like, I am, for how long am I supposed to be apprentice to you? And the sorcerer says, till you're 18. When you're 18, you can stay on with me and continue and get, and continue your studies even further. And the young prince interrupts, goes, what studies? What, you mean read more books? I can do that. I mean, certainly my family doesn't have a library like yours, but I have access to libraries. I can get these books. I don't need you and your this tower to teach me how to read, teach me how to. This is total bullshit. And so the sorcerer looks and goes, so you don't want to learn the last and final spell. And the young prince is like, I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, if it's the last of magic, if it's the very last bit of magic, sure, I'll learn it. I'll carry it on. All right. So he begins studying, in about 2 or 3 months. Hey, thank you, Stefan. Thank you, man. So about 2 or 3 months into his studies, a messenger, a very terrified messenger, arrives, and it's the very same messenger that first made contact with the sorcerer back in the day. Now much older. He arrives and says, my prince, I'm sorry. He encounters the sorcerer, encounters the prince, and he brings news that the king has passed, and that they're holding a funeral for him, and then the queen is going to become the queen mother, and Eric the eldest is going to become the new king. And so his presence, the young prince's presence, has been requested at the kingdom, at the castle for all of this, the funeral and the coronation of his brother. And the sorcerer, of course, says the sorcerer says, no, he's like, you can't do that. You can't. You're not done. You need to complete your studies before you can go back. I have you till you're 18. And the young prince says, no, I can always come back. I will come back and I will learn this last spell. But it's my family. And the thing is, and I'm here on false pretenses. Like I was here till 18, yes, because I was supposed to be learning all of the arcane arts of the evil and malevolent dark sorcerer. I'm not learning any. I've learned parlor tricks. Like how dare, I have to go. You have to let me go. You have to let me go. And the sorcerer says, well, I obviously, I can't stop you. I have no power to stop you. But I'm telling you that you leaving, it's going to be a big mistake. You need to at least learn this last spell. Like, what if I die before you return? I'm an old man. If I die before you return, this spell will be lost forever. And the young prince goes, all right, I have to go. If you can, do you have books that can teach me how to do the spell? Is there anything So the sorcerer says, you know what? Give me 2 days, and I'll put something together that you can take with you to allow you to continue your studies. And so 2 days later, the young prince sets off with the messenger, and they return through, and all the while, the messenger is like as they leave in the morning, and the messenger's like, thank God we're leaving in the morning. There's a lot less shadows, he's like, you can tell that the messenger is still living in significant fear, and of course the young prince just kind of laughs and yeah, the shadows, they're real dangerous. Oh yeah, the hippogriffs, let me know if you see a hippogriff, but of course the messenger takes this as fact that the sorcerer, that the sorcerer's apprentice is now powerful enough that he can scoff at these horrible creatures, So they eventually make their way back to the castle, and they do the funeral, and they do the coronation. And it's a beautiful affair, but it's I mean, if you've seen a movie about coronations or it's the same old, just except a little smaller in scale, because it's a small country with a small castle with not as much money, But the thing is that when the one thing that young Hefter does see is that his brothers are well, first off, so when he returns home and he meets his brothers are very standoffish, and all of them are carrying raiment and armament that is very strange, for the most part, the armor, the armor of the Euphonia, the Euphonia military is usually like an orange, kind of tabard with a blue cape, and it's usually like just chainmail and maybe some leather underneath that chain, like maybe some like a padded cloth thing, and then leather over that, and then chainmail over that. And then you might wear like some greaves or something, but for the most part, it's like pretty rudimentary, pretty limber, like But he noticed, but Hefter notices that his brothers are like all of whom have different sort of unusual, very sort of ornate, but also very strange kind of different kinds of armor sets. One of them has banded mail, the other one has plate mail, the other one has like studded mail, and the other, like, but each of them has different kinds of armor, but they're all like they all have a little bit more attention to detail put into each of them, So and they kind of strut around. They strut around like, oh yeah, I'm awesome, So but again, the brothers, when the young prince, when young Hefter gets there, like he doesn't really hang out. Like his brothers spend a lot of time together, but they don't spend any time with him. And they don't really get a chance to really hang out or commiserate, other than like a really cursory, like, good to see you, brother, how you doing, a little bit very awkward standoffish thing, and that goes on for 3 or 4 days, and then after the coronation, all of the new king, now King Eric, the new king has summoned all of his brothers, because he's going to give out the royal appointments. So now all of the brothers are going to be given their actual jobs, and they are all wearing decorative jockstraps, except on their heads, because they don't actually know what the jockstrap is for, and so they just think it's some sort of like head protection. And it turns out, because it was said that it was head protection, they misinterpreted the head. So they all kind of like, so by the time Hefter gets there, the other brothers are kind of gathered around a table in sort of like the royal apartments, and is that Vaseline? Is that a tub of Vaseline? And so they so when Hefter walks in, that's awesome. So when Hefter walks in, hey, McLavoy, thank you so much for the follow, man. Right on. I'm glad you're digging the show. So when Hefter walks in, the brothers are all are all kind of like commiserating kind of quietly, and the now new king, Hefter's eldest brother, Eric, stands up, and he's like, Hefter, come in here, come, and they all sit down, and he's like, ale. He's like, have you had? Were you able to drink much when you're with the black sorcerer? And Hefter goes, actually, no. We didn't really have. We had water and fresh vegetables, and occasionally we would slay a pig or a lamb, but for the most part it was a pretty simple living. And the king and now the new king Eric goes, really, you would think that it's that the great and mighty powerful sorcerer would have candied delights from all around the world, like that he would have djinns and demons flying, offering him and proffering him delights from all 4 corners of the globe. And Hefter goes, yeah, you'd think that, but that's the sorcerer's, he's got very simple tastes, it turns out. And so and all the brothers are like laughing, and so they all keep drinking, and they mostly are talking about their different roles, they're all jockeying for like all of the brothers want to be sort of like the minister of war, or the minister of the coin, or the minister they don't want they don't want to be the guy that that's in charge of the pigs, and so ultimately it kind of lines up right according to age. So Eric ends up giving the next youngest brother, he ends up giving Dave, makes him the minister of the war, and he ends up making a Jim the minister of the coin, and he ends up making Colin the minister of the cities. But he just comes up with all these different awesome stuff. You know, so good to see a flying minister. Yes, it is. This is a cult initiation thing. So he ends up so he ends up giving all of the like the big roles, and then he goes, now what are we gonna do with our sorcerer brother? He's like, so I'm assuming you can commune with animals, yes? Like you can like should we make you, or wait, he's like can you maybe we could put you in charge of the falcon, like our falcons, and Hefter goes, we don't have any falcons, do we? And Eric goes, oh, you're right, we don't have falcons. Well, perhaps we could put you in charge of our flying unicorns, or what are they called? The flying. And Hefter goes, I think you mean the Pegasus, right? No, those things, they don't exist. Oh, Pegasuses don't exist. Pegasi, I think. Pegasuses don't exist. Well, then, why don't we put you in charge of? Well, we don't have an ocean, so we can't put you in charge of the fleet. Why don't we put you in charge of? Why don't we put you in charge of the pigs? I think that's a good thing for you, right? I mean, you like pigs. You were always a big fan of pigs when you were younger. And the other brothers are like laughing and yeah, that's great. And Hefter's like, well, I mean, I think that I don't think that we need a minister of pigs, right? Like the farmers know how to take care of the pigs. The pigs pretty much know how to take care of themselves. Like I don't need a role. And Eric goes, no, but you do. I can't have a brother of mine just walking around with nothing to do. Not in my kingdom. Like, you need a role. In fact, what we'll do is we'll make you and all the other brothers are kind of like a blessing of you. Yeah. So all the is that's a collective noun for unicorns. That's awesome. So they and you can see that Hefter can see that all of his brothers are kind of like stifling grins. It definitely looks like this has sort of been in the works, and they all start like throwing out different ideas of things that could be part of the role of the minister of pigs. Like you could be the first, like, you would get to name the first pig of each litter, and they start laughing, and one of them's like, and we could do like prima nocta with pigs. When a new female pig becomes of age, you can be the first one to have a go at her, and they're laughing, and Hefter gets more and more, is getting more and more sort of like infuriated by this kind of like the jocularity, and he's like, you do know that I'm a sorcerer. I can actually do magic, and they're like, oh, he can do magic, like, and they're like, Hefter, we know all about you and your magic. We know that magic does not exist. Scholar Domain, the fellow that went with you. It turns out that he actually did some ranging into the sorcerer's territory, and he didn't find any manticores, and he didn't find any hippogriffs, and so apparently, your magic thing is, we know that there's no such thing as magic. It's been known for a long time, man. It's but all right, welcome, sorcerer. And Hefter gets, he's like, there's no magic at all. Is that what you're telling me? There's no magic whatsoever? What about this? And he does a thing, and the little flame perks up, and all the brothers start for just a second, and they look at this little flame, and they're like, and then they just burst into fucking laughing, like they just like, and they're like, that's, oh no, the great and powerful Hefter with his mighty finger flame, don't cook me slowly over many weeks, And so, and they're just, and at this point in time, like, Hefter himself is pretty drunk. And so he is, and this is, it's the first time he's ever had alcohol. So even on a couple flagons of ale, he would be 3 sheets to the wind. But his brothers kept plying him with more and more drink. So Hefter frustrated, just like says fuck you guys to something to that nature and gets up and walks out. And he's mind-blowingly drunk. So he decides, fuck this and fuck these guys and fuck my brothers and fuck this castle and fuck my role. Like I'm the youngest prince with a country that has 5 princes. I am not needed here. I am going to and fuck that sorcerer, fuck that lying piece of shit sorcerer, fuck this place. I'm out of here. And so he just stumbles his way out the front of the castle gates, and of course the whole kingdom has been partying because their new king has just been coronated. So no one pays him any mind as he kind of wanders out into the night. And so fast forward to the next morning, and he's literally lying in some pigsty somewhere with some pigs kind of snuffling around him. And he's got some sort of it's like a burlap sack that smells strong of apples, kind of draped, he's wrapped himself up in this apple sack, and he's just like, what the fuck, and he wakes up and he's got a mind splitting hangover, and he kind of stumbles up. And he's like, fuck, that's right. And he thinks about it, and he remembers all the shit that went on last night. He remembers his brothers. He remembers the argument. He remembers them mocking his little tiny flame. He thinks about the fact, their reaction to it. He's like, it's real fucking magic. It's real magic. It's the last bits of magic, and I can do it. I'm the keeper of the last bits of magic. God damn it, even though it's stupid magic, And as this is like last night, as he's walking around drunk, he's doing this. I mean, it's stupid magic, but it's magic. God damn it, So in the morning he remembers, and he's like, fuck, that's he's like. And he starts making his way back up towards the castle, and he's thinking about the fact that he's now going to be maybe he's not going to be the minister of pigs, but whatever he's going to be, it's going to be a shitty job with 3 or 4 brothers that don't that already know the ruse is up. They know that magic is not what it used to be. They know, he's not going to be able to create a name for himself like the black sorcerer did. He's like, fuck it, And the more he thinks about it, the more he realizes he doesn't the life ahead of him, he just doesn't want. And so he's like, fuck it. You know what? I'm out of here. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to walk that way. And he just picks a direction and he starts walking. And he kind of, he comes across, after some time, he runs across some other travelers. And they kind of hey, you want to join with us? There's sort of safety in numbers, there's wolves in these mountains and things of that nature. And so he's like, yeah, sure, and they get to talking, and they're like, what's your name? And he thinks about it, and he's like, I can't be Hefter. Hefter is such a strange name already. And there's really only one Hefter in the land, which is the Prince Hefter. So if he says Hefter, but he decides he's like my name's Carrie, because he knows with all good stories, names have to have meaning, and so he's like, all right, well, Hefter, I'll call myself Carrie. That's my name's Carrie. And they're like, Carrie, that's that's a good name. And so where do you hail from, Carrie? And he says, just a little village, not too far up the way. It's a small. It's just me and a handful of families. And I was raised as a shepherd, and I'm just off to seek my fortune. And they go, that's great, well, do you have any idea where you're headed? And he's like, nope. I figured I would just kind of see where the wind blows me. And they're like, all right, well, that's great, that's. And they travel together for a couple of days, and he gets to know him. And there's actually a girl. There's a girl with them that's maybe a year. So now by this point in time, he is now Carrie, the young prince, is now about 17 years old. About 16 and a half, coming on, cresting on 17 maybe. No, he's about 16 and a half. Because he left right about 2 months into his 16th birthday. So, and there's a girl there. She's maybe 15, and she's cute, like, and he's kind of flirting with her and trying to and like doesn't really, and it's the first girl he's been around that where it hasn't been removed by a significant distance, And so as they're traveling, they as they're leaving the mountain area. So the thing is, like, so these travelers they're all merchants, and they're all traveling between the mountain kingdom of Euphonia, and actually the border towns along the edge of the empire. And so as they leave the mountain range, they're like, all right, guys, like, all right, everybody get your weapons ready, and they turn to Hefter, and they're like, you don't have a sword, do you? And he's like, no, I didn't, my family, we couldn't afford one. And they're like, well, we can give you a loaner weapon, but this stretch of the road is pretty dangerous. There's lots of brigands and ne'er-do-wells, and it'd be best if you were armed. So the prince goes, yeah, thank you so much, and they give him like an old beat up sword. It's nicked, and it's certainly seen better days. But it's definitely better to have in a scuffle than anything else. And he actually remembers having read books on sword fighting and stances and things like that. So he sits there and is trying to remember. So whenever they stop for food or stop to camp, he spends a little time trying to remember a little bit about what he read about this sword fighting and the arts of martial combat. One night they're all camping. They've made camp for the night, and they're all sort of passing out. It's about to fall asleep. And they hear they hear like a scream off from somewhere not too far off. And it turns out that the girl, the 15-year-old girl, actually went down to the creek to grab some water, and she just screamed. And so of course everybody gets up and they draw their weapons and they rush away. And to go and find her, and they only leave a handful of people actually at the camp. And there's maybe about 10 of them, and so like 7 of them run off to go see what's happening with her, and three are left there. And so Hefter, well, the young prince now Carrie, who does, like, he's not super familiar with affixing a sword belt. He's not super, like, so he's a little bit slower to to actually get up and ready and leave, and he's about a minute and a half behind, and as he's about to take off, all of a sudden in rushes a bunch of people from the darkness, and they just start rushing through and start going through all of the bags. All the while, the handful of people that remained in the camp start screaming at the top of their lungs, "Here, robbers!" So these people that are like basically purloining the wares, they're just grabbing everything that they possibly can, and they're running away. So a handful of them kind of run after. So the couple of the people that are at the camp run after them. the young prince decides to join them, decides to like race after them as well. But the thing is, like, he doesn't know this terrain very well, and it's dark. And so the deeper he follows them, the more he begins to realize this is not a good idea. I don't know this terrain. I don't know where these guys are headed. They probably do know this terrain, and the thing is, I'm probably running into some sort of danger. So I should just let the stuff go. We should get back to them. We should talk to them. So, so he turns back, and he returns to the. And as he turns, he hears the sounds of fighting, kind of off in both directions. It sounds like there's skirmishes kind of happening all throughout this area. And so he's trying to make his way back to the camp, and the footing is kind of strange, and he doesn't really know the terrain that well, and as he's making his way back, he's confronted by two big men, and one of them is carrying a club, and the other one's carrying like some sort of reaping implement, some sort of like agricultural tool with a sharp edge. It's not fully a scythe, but something that looks like a scythe. It's got a scythe-like blade. Some other weird other blade on it or something. And they're both wielding it, and they confront him, and they're like give us your weapons, give us your weapon, lad. And he's like, it's not mine. I can't give it to you. It's just given to me on loan. And one, and the bigger of the two like smiles and goes, well, they're losing everything else as well. Who's like, we might as well, don't worry, they're going to be losing everything, and they might be losing their lives, and you might be losing your life unless you hand that over right now. So the young prince, but because he was, even as a kid, he was raised with some sense of nobility and justice, and so he goes to pull the sword, and the guy holding the scythe kind of thing goes, I wouldn't do that if I were you, not if you want to keep that head of yours, and so the prince thinks about it and instead undoes his belt, and he goes, and these two guys go, now if you get out of here. He's like, if we see you again, we're gonna lop that head right off. So the young prince, he's like, he's kind of at odds, It is Diffa Slayer. It is the same story. So the young prince, he's kind of fighting this internal struggle. He wants to he's people that have been kind to him and have helped him out and have kind of done good things for him for the past handful of days. They're now getting attacked. They're losing all of their goods. They're losing the things that are important to them, and this is their livelihood. And he's like, he wants to help, but he knows he's no good as a fighter. He knows he can't do anything. He can make flames and throw his voice, and he doesn't. So he runs. So he runs, and he leaves. He flees because he's not a hero. He's just a kid that learned a handful of shitty spells. And he just kind of flees off into the night in a direction that's not along the road because he doesn't want to get caught up in the same chaos. And he keeps running, and and eventually he sees a fire. Because that's the good thing about it being nighttime. Fires are easy to see, and so he slows down and he slowly makes his way towards the fire, thinking that maybe it's going to be people. Maybe it'll be the people like the travelers that he would travel with. Maybe there'll be other merchants and folks, and maybe he can approach them, show them he doesn't have a weapon, and maybe they can take him in and offer him some food. He doesn't have any food. He hasn't eaten since the last time they camped. Because they didn't get a chance to get their meals together yet. They just yet put the camp together. He doesn't know. The thing is that he just doesn't want to be. He just kind of went through a sort of frightening experience. He's not certain if he wants to be alone. He's not certain what he wants to do. So he's just going to go check him out. So he kind of creeps in as close as he's willing to get without getting their attention, which is pretty close, maybe 15 and 20 feet out. And he can hear the voice of a girl, and she's saying something to the effect of, there's no one that can pay for me. Like, I don't know who you think I am, but I just work on a farm. No one's going to be able to pay a dime for me. Like, I don't know why you think that I'm anything other than a farm worker. I'm a farm girl. And you hear this like chuckle, and this guy's like, "Sure you are, princess. Sure you are. Well, we'll take you back to your farm and see what sort of money they're willing to pay for you, And she's like, and this girl's adamant. She's like, you pulled me off my horse as I was making my way back to the farm. This is our farm's only horse, and if I don't get it back to him, this horse pulls our plow. Like, how are we going to survive? And the guy that was speaking is like, don't even. He's like, don't even worry about it, princess. Don't even worry about it. We'll get that horse back to your family, and they'll give us a little food. Maybe they'll give us, a portion of the kingdom. Who knows? Like, a portion of the empire. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. And the girl was like, so great. So that's what you're kidnappers. Is that what you're saying? You're gonna ransom me back to my family that has nothing for nothing. That's all you're gonna get is nothing. You're gonna keep the horse. I'm assuming you're gonna keep the horse. And the man that was speaking goes, like, the brigand that was speaking, he's like, no, we're not going to keep the horse as long as your family can pay for the horse. And I know your family, and your family can certainly pay for the horse. Oh yeah. Sorry about that, Stefan. And this is it's a cheap, like, Target chair. It's not. I don't own nice things, except my guitars are pretty okay. So the young prince is sitting there and he's watching this whole exchange, and he's like, fuck, seems like this girl is definitely in distress. And I can't fight, but he's like, she definitely needs help. I should be able to help her. And he starts thinking about what the black sorcerer was talking to him about being a storyteller and taking the things that you do have, taking the abilities you do have, and taking the knowledge you do have, and working it to your advantage. And he's like, And so he decides that he comes up with a plan. And so let's jump in from the perspective of let's switch real quick to the perspective of the brigands and this girl. So it's dark out. There's a fire. They're all huddled around it, and they're all and the guys are all talking about their good fortune having found this girl, and oh my God, and they couldn't believe it. Could you imagine that we found her there, this far out from the center of the empire? Here she was, and what good fortune it was. And then they start talking about their days. They talk about their days when they were working as the guard at some place, at the palace. Oh yeah, and oh, did you have this one food and this food and blah blah blah. Hey, right on, awesome, thank you, Justin. That's very kind of you, man. And they're definitely talking about things like. It definitely seems like these guys had all worked together. They all know each other, and they all perhaps were guards at the same institution, the same palace, the same place, something like so. And all of a sudden they hear this kind of very bizarre, weird sounding, like, kind of wailing thing from what somewhere in the dark. And then they hear another one from somewhere else in the dark, and another one, and it sounds like, oh my God, they're surrounded. And then they hear, you must free the woman now, or you will die at the hands of the spirits that I have summoned. And all the men like what was that? What like I said, you free that woman now. You let her go, or your souls will suffer immortal turmoil at the hands of the shadows that I have conjured. And any shadow can be, he starts regaling, and these guys are like, what the, and then he steps, and then the young prince steps into the light, and he's like, so let them go. Let her go. She's coming with me, or all of you will be, we'll be consumed by the shadows. And of course everybody's like at first like frightened, like, oh my God, what the hell are these sounds? And they're surrounding us, and what's going on? And they definitely seem like they're on edge. But now that they have a person to focus their perspective on, particularly because he looks like a pretty well appointed but not armed person. He looks like he's dressed in pretty decent, like a kind of like not like a fop, but like a rich guy's clothing, but not an armed guy. He's not wearing any armor. He's not like he's just a guy that showed up wearing some pretty nice duds that is saying, and now that they have something to focus their attention on, they're like, what are you? Who are you? And he's like, and he goes, I am the sorcerer. I am the sorcerer of these hills, and I tell you, he's like, and I've conjured spirits and wraiths and banshees. I've summoned all manner of dead, and they encircle you now, and you've heard their cries, and they will come and they will feast on your souls for all of eternity if you don't let this girl be. And a bunch of the men are like, come on, like talking to like what apparently is the ringleader, like, come on, man, let's let her go, like we don't want to deal with any magic, any sorcerer. No, like there are sorcerers, there's that sorcerer that lives in Euphonia, not too far from here. I mean, this is a place where magic, like these hills, like the mountains are where all the magicians live. Like we need to let her go, but the head brigand guy, he's like, I don't know. Those whales sounded a lot like they might have been made by. Do you have what? You have some friends with you, boy? Is that what it is? You got some friends? Is that what you got? You got like maybe a bunch. Maybe you know this girl. Maybe your friend. Maybe you're sweet on her. Maybe she isn't the princess. Maybe she's your girlfriend. Is that what it is? And you're trying to you rallied some of your buddies together. And now you're trying to save her from us, from the big old bad brigands. Is that what it is? So, well, if she's not the princess, and if she's not worth anything to us, if you're just her paramour, then maybe, because she's a pretty good. She definitely looks a lot like the princess. She's a pretty sweet little thing. Maybe we'll have our way with her then. If she's not royal blood, then yeah. I mean, and like, unless you and your banshees want to come. Throw down with us. That's, we'd welcome a good scrap. I always like a good fight, either before or after a meal. And obviously the young prince realizes this is heading south very quickly. And the prince suddenly goes, the prince looks and goes, if you don't believe I'm a magician, if you don't believe I'm a sorcerer, then your soul is in perpetual. You're going to spend the rest of eternity with your soul in permanent torment, because I have magics at my command, magics that you are not even able to imagine. He's like, I can conjure lightning from the sky. I can shake the earth. I can make the earth rattle. I can make the earth open up and swallow you whole. He's like, you think I don't have magic? You think I don't have the power to do the things that I say? And he holds up his hand, and flame bursts. He's like, try me. And at that, all of the men scramble. They just start running. And of course, so of course now she's because she's bound. She's just sitting there, but her eyes are wide and just in terror, And these men so the men all kind of scatter to the four hills, And as they run off, he's like, if you're not a league from here by morning, I'll feast. I'll send my banshees to feast on your souls. He's screaming at them as they're running away. So so they all take off. And he turns to the young, this young girl that definitely is dressed like a farm maid. And he's like, hey, are you okay? Or did they hurt you? And she's like, no, they captured me thinking that I'm the imperial princess. It's ridiculous. And they took my horse is right over there. Can you cut me from these bonds and get me on my horse and let me on my way? I got to get home, to my family. And so the young prince is like, like the young prince is like, well, yeah, here. So he grabs there's finds some weapon stashed on one of the other horses and yanks it off and cuts her bonds and he's like, Sue, hey bud, what's going on? I think the dog might need to go pee real quick, but so he cuts her bonds and he kind of helps her to her feet and she kind of rubs some feeling back into her arms into her legs. And she goes over to the horse and she kind of sort of consoles her horse and kind of removes the reins and it kind of gets the horse ready to go. And all the while the young prince is kind of like checking out the other horses and kind of taking things that looked like they might be of some value, but these guys actually didn't have a lot, or the stuff that they had they carried on them. And so he takes what looks to be the horse that's in the best shape, and he grabs the second best horse, and he kind of pulls them, peels them out of the 8 or 9 horses that are there, and he says, you know what? Why don't I should travel with you? I mean, these are still dangerous roads. I was just accosted, and then I ran across you guys. I mean, it seems like this is like bandit infested territory. You should let me travel with you. And so after some hemming and hawing, she goes, okay, you can travel with me for a while, but you can't travel with me all the way back to my farm because my I don't want my family to know that I'm traveling with a young man, but you can travel with me to the next town. How about that? And that's a few leagues down the way. So they both agreed to this. All right. So I have to pause real quick to go take the dog out if you guys don't mind. All right, so this is what we can do. So I've been going for about 2.5 hours. There's still a lot to this story, and it gets the scale of it gets more and more epic. We have yet to meet the actual villain and arch villain of this story. If you guys are still into it, and if you still want to hear the rest right now, I can continue to regale as soon as I get the dog back from taking him outside. If you want to call it now, and we pick up again next Monday, that's totally cool as well. Whatever you guys are want to do is totally fine with me. I'm gonna be back, and why don't we take this time to sort this out. I'll be right back. So and then what I'll do is when I get back, I will do I'll paraphrase, I'll kind of give a summary of kind of what the story as it's happened to this point, just so if you're showing up late and you're kind of into this, you can kind of get all of the backstory. So I'll be right back in 1 moment. All right, buddy, come on, let's go outside. Man. Okay, come on. Sit. Can you sit? Sit, bud. let's see there. All right. So what do you guys think? Should we keep going? Do I keep going, or do we call it tonight and then press on next week? Because I can definitely keep going. I can go till 10. I can do a 4-hour stream. That's my normal window for streaming. So, but I definitely would like. Here, let me turn up this light for. No, these lights are fucking terrible. I can't. The thing is, like Stefan, I'm trying not. I need to preserve my voice. I'm in the process of recording an album. I'm still playing tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm playing pretty much 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. I'm playing 3 hours tomorrow, 4 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours tomorrow, then 4 hours every other day. And I'm also singing during the daytime. Today I sang today, and I'm recording today. I'm singing tomorrow. I'm recording tomorrow. So I'm just trying to like get whatever break I can for my voice, So. Yeah, I'm working on 3 albums, man. I've got the newest record is going to be the Outtakes album, which is there's 39 songs on it, and there's 39 new songs on the Outtakes record. Then I've got an album of live material that we recorded way back in 2008 that I just wasn't able to put out until a couple years ago, and then I just forgot about putting it out. So I'm going to put that out sometime this year, and then I'm going to put out the new Get Set Go record, the new like actual main album towards the end of the year. So I've got a lot of projects in the works right now. So what do you guys think? Is anybody still paying attention to the story? Have I just been regaling? I mean, there's been people in the audience, but are people engaged? Do people want to know more? Do they want to hear the end of the story? I guess really truthfully, I don't even think we could get to the end of it. I really do think that this is probably a 2-parter, even with a 4-hour limit. I think it'll probably take about 6 hours, considering where we're at the story right now versus where we were the last time I told the story. The last time I told the story, it took me about 2.5 hours to tell it, but I was a lot further along after, So yeah, so I mean, and there's a lot more detail in this rendition as well. So, what do you guys think? Yeah, you do. So I don't know what everybody else is doing. but yeah. So I just want to okay. Well, yeah. Then why don't we do that? I think this is so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this every Monday for the next month. And if it picks up a following, and if it seems like people are engaged and they're digging the story, then I will keep doing it. And then if it's not, if it like, I definitely have an idea. After this story is done, I have the idea of I want to sort of improvise stories based on sort of like feedback from the audience, and try that out and see how that works. And so I'll definitely like anyway. But there's some things. Thank you so much, man. Awesome. Yeah. So there are some things. There are some things that I'd like to do. Another thing that I'm not really doing, that I will at some point once I get a little bit more comfortable with this, because I haven't done this in a long time. I'll definitely start adding more flavor to the characters' voices and to their lexicon. It's just something I haven't done in a while, and so I just want to make sure I'm getting the tent poles of the story out of the way before I start really digging into the way that acting the characters out is basically what I'm talking about. So that will come in time. So I'll definitely get that. So. All right. Well then. All right. Cool. Well then. Yeah. So that's that. Yeah. Thank you guys for being a part of this, and hopefully you dug it, and we'll pick it up next week Monday. So all right. Right on. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give this a shot, and so we'll pick it up. We'll pick it up next Monday. We'll see. We'll see what happens with the young prince and his this girl that he's just met. So, all right, I'll be into. I'll see you guys. I'll see you all very soon. And I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, and I'll throw on a song to send us out. This is a song called "It's Not So Bad." It's an acoustic. And that's an acoustic. It's an instrumental I wrote a couple years ago.